We eat with our eyes, and when it comes to barbecue, that means a dark red smoke ring that'll send a signal to your brain that this food has been smoked to perfection and is gonna be delicious. And one of the things that you may not realize is that what you put on your meat can either help or hinder the formation of that smoke ring. So we're gonna test a few of those today and see if they're worth your time and effort in enhancing that smoke ring. I started with 2 3.5-pound chuck roasts and cut them each in half, so that way I could have 4 fairly similar pieces of meat for the test. That will keep things as consistent as possible. I coated each one with salt to dry brine it, and I also had some ground celery seed that I put on one of the other ones. In order to allow it to do its magic, I wrapped each one up in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. So it's been about 5 hours since these chuck roasts got salted and put in the fridge. The Kamato's ready to go, and we're gonna put them on. I picked the Kamato because in our last test, this got a really good smoke ring among the charcoal smokers. Right before I put the meat on, I seasoned it with some fresh cracked black pepper. One of the pieces had nothing else done to it, one was coated in celery seed, one I spritzed with water, and the last one was mopped in apple cider vinegar. The Kamado is set for 225 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a great low and slow temperature and should allow for a good smoke ring. So you might be wondering why I chose these 3 things to be able to test to see if they help or hinder the smoke ring. And I'll start with vinegar. I was watching a video by Mad Scientist Barbecue and he soaked his meat in vinegar. And the end result was that it didn't have a smoke ring, or at least it wasn't as distinct as all the other ones that he had cooked. And I thought to myself, when does anybody ever soak their meat in vinegar before putting it on the smoker? That one didn't really make sense to me. But then I realized a lot of people in their mop sauce use vinegar. And so if that had an effect by soaking it in there, does it still have an effect if you put it on the outside when you mop it? And that's why I started from the very beginning, mopping that with some apple cider vinegar, and I'm gonna do it every 30 minutes throughout the cook. To my surprise, after an hour, the chuck roasts that were wet aren't turning the dark red you'd usually expect. And I can't wait to cut into them once they're done so we can see the ring inside and compare the results. The other test is celery seed. Now, why did I use celery seed? It's because it's well documented that celery seed can enhance the smoke ring because of the nitrates that are in it. If you remember from my last video, The Science of Smoke Rings, or at least where I explained that, it showed that those are the compounds that change the myoglobin and turn it red. Now, there is a way to cheat, and that is exactly what I did on the gas grill. I used Morton Tender Quick. This is great for making bacon, it's great for making ham, but I would never put it on the barbecue stuff because it's really easy to overdo. It's concentrated nitrates, and you can make it to the point where it's unpalatable or even unsafe to eat. With celery seed, you're not as likely to do that. You're also gonna find it in a lot of barbecue rubs. The other 2 are just there to act as a control. We have the 1 chuck roast that we're not gonna do anything to. We're just gonna cook it until it's done. That'll act as a control for all of them to see if there's any impact over doing absolutely nothing, which, if it worked the best, would be really ideal. And the second one is I'm spritzing the one that's right next to the one that I'm using vinegar, just to see if that changes the smoke ring at all. Because some people say that having a moist surface will have more smoke be attracted to the meat, you'll get a better smoke ring and smoke flavor doing that. But we need to counteract them just a little bit. If I was only doing one that was moist and the other one's not, we wouldn't know if it was the vinegar that made the change or just spritzing it itself. So we gotta do both. I cooked each one until it reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit internal and was nice and tender. It's the next day and I just finished an awesome chuck roast grilled cheese sandwich. I highly recommend that you do that. Sometimes I'll make extra just so I can make the grilled cheese sandwiches with my barbecued meat. A little bit of cheese and barbecue sauce goes a really long way. But I figured you want the results, and I wanted to tell you exactly what happened with the chuck roast yesterday. The one with nothing on it had a really deep smoke ring, but the one with the celery seed had a darker ring right around the edge where the celery seed did its magic. But you can taste it. Mrs. GTE was able to identify which one had the celery seed just by taste alone. So if that's something you're sensitive to, you might want to cut back on it just a little bit. Now let's talk about the ones that I did spritz. Starting from the very beginning, I coated one of them with water and the other one with apple cider vinegar, and I repeated that every 30 minutes for about the first 2.5 or 3 hours. And I wondered if the placement inside of the grill made the difference in color, so I'm taking the test and doing it again. I'm putting those ones that I'm spritzing on the top grate, so that way I can see if it's hotter up there, and that makes a big difference. But so far, it's already been about the same. I'm seeing the same results, and we're an hour into the cook. So what does that mean for you when you're cooking it? Well, the first one is don't spritz straight out of the gate. You want to let it go for probably an hour or so that way that smoke can get absorbed and you start to get that color and the reaction from the myoglobin fixing into that beautiful red smoke ring. And the vinegar did make less of a smoke ring than just the plain water. So again, if you do that farther in the cook when that smoke ring is already formed, you can absolutely put it on for flavor or whatever your reason is, but it won't really impact the smoke ring. I asked Mrs. GTE which one had the vinegar on it, and she couldn't identify it. She picked the wrong one, so that one didn't make a big difference in the way that it tastes. If this video was helpful for you, don't forget to smash that like button and consider subscribing so you can keep up with all of our barbecue testing videos. Of course, I've got another test right over here that you might want to check out after this one.